Hi, I'm Arati, and I first really got into flower essences when I had a pretty significant head injury. And I used several different flower essences each day to help balance my different emotions. Once I got better, I decided I really needed to bring that into my herbalism practice.
My name is Felicia Howe. I got exposed to flower essences through working with many modalities in aromatherapy, but I feel the most profound experience I can remember working with flower essences was when I just used the botch rescue remedy. I was traveling on an airplane for 4 years for work, monthly, every 6 weeks, and I had the most stressful fear of flying, like hated being in airports, hated being on airplanes. I would get so much anxiety that like my whole body would heat up and I could just feel my hair falling out. Yes, I was like getting ready to get on the plane and nothing worked. I would try everything, adaptogens, you name it. I started to just go to the simple, basic Whole Foods, got some botch remedy, rescue remedy, took that as soon as I got on the plane, and it was like a total game changer. I literally felt my nervous system completely adapt. It relieved my stress almost instantly. Like it was so profound. I was sold. From there on out, I was like, this medicine is beyond incredible for me.
Oh, I love that story because I know how much you travel. And
Yeah.
that's like a game changer.
Yeah, it was tremendous game changer. If I would even feel any turbulence, I'd be like saying Hail Marys. It was really special to have been able to have that experience to talk about how powerful these remedies are, and it just set me on the path.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. I was actually introduced to flower essences via a free workshop that was offered very close to my old job. And I was feeling very lost at the time. I was engaging in community work as an herbalist, and I definitely wanted to find more community. And after that workshop, and we made our own essences, I found myself taking part in an apprenticeship, which was absolutely wonderful. And it completely changed the course of my life. And it actually is what led me to find Herbalists Without Borders, and community, and set up my chapter. And yeah, it definitely led me down that pathway.
A little bit about me. My name is Arati Ursus. I own Brown Bear Herbs, and I've been practicing herbalism for about 15 years, like with clients. And I also am mostly known for helping people quit tobacco with my herbal cigarettes. And then recently, I joined the board of directors with Herbalists Without Borders and got to know Jocelyn better. And we are flower essence, and I also love gem essences. We are enthusiasts. So we got excited about doing this webcast for you.
So a little bit more about me. I am based and from New York City. I've been working here as an herbalist and an urban naturalist for several years. And I have different partnerships with the Parks Department, with the conservation societies. So it's been really wonderful kind of bridging my love of the environment with my herbalism practice. I am also the executive director of Herbalists Without Borders. And under that 501c3, we have over 70 groups, chapters, clinics, and projects that we manage. And yeah, it's all about getting these herbal medicines out and to the community and helping to educate them in any capacity that we can. So we're really grateful that we're able to put these panel discussions together, and very excited to have this going on today.
That's so awesome. So do you feel like this is a great medicine option that kind of circumvents some of the legal sides of things and like the medical risks?
Yes. So flower essences are definitely such a gentle form of energetic medicine. It's not something that would cause some contraindications in comparison to some herbal supplements that could definitely do. So they don't have these that kind of level of interaction. And so I feel it's much easier to use, and of course in a multitude of ways. But I think this, in essence, makes it much more accessible because it can be used in a myriad of ways and in all ages, even species. You can use it in your pets as well. It's definitely a medicine for all.
I am the creator of Primrose Organics Apothecary. I got into flower essences mainly because of the emotional support that it offers. It was a sort of a segue in from aromatherapy. I loved working with essential oils because of the physical impacts that they have on our bodies. And then that really opened me up to the energetics of working with the plant medicine and that sort of more emotional way. And that really got me interested in flower essences, primarily because it is purely vibrational. And another thing that really got me into working with flower essences versus aromatherapy was also the significant environmental impact and just how essential oils take so much plant material and it's so unregulated and it's so invasive and there's so many environmental factors, as well as the chemical exposure that can happen with adulterated oils. And you got to know your sourcing, and there's so much, like, it's very complex. And looking at working with the essences primarily for the energetics, flower essences just seemed so ideal that you can use just a small amount of plant material in comparison to essential oils and have just the most profound experiences with them on an emotional, spiritual, mental level. And that's what really got me more inspired by working with them. And just through the course of not only seeing the transformation in my clients and people that I have been sort of working with over long periods of time, I myself I've just benefited tremendously from using flower essences for stress and all the things emotional. I could just go on and on.
Nice. Felicia, do you want to share some of your wisdom and all your experience about how to make them and how you would recommend dosing the flower essences, stuff like that?
I grow and cultivate at this point all the essences I make. I have about 53 flower essences in my apothecary. I, over time, have been able to cultivate and grow everything organically in my garden here in Portland. And it's simple to make, but yet it's methodical, and it should be taken with care, and there's steps that I feel that are important to do in order to facilitate to make these essences. You can, if you look it up on the internet, it's like very simple, and it is the simplest method. Ultimately, I think, the gathering the botanicals in ways where you're not touching them with any of your energy whatsoever by hand picking. I always get in there. I have my special toolkit that I remove the botanicals with into spring water. And spring water is really important. Spring water is a very traditional base to make essences. If you look at the practitioners early on, Bach remedies and whatnot. But spring water is kinetic. It really holds the energy and the imprint of what you give it. And I love that. It's got minerals and these other little components within it that create this alchemy. And so once the flowers are immersed into the spring water, typically I try to do them in the simplest way with the sun, creating a sun tea where it sits for about 4 hours, just absorbing those rays. And within that time, it can heat up to about little over 100-degree temperature, which is mildly extracting the volatile oil. So it's not like you're doing any kind of like distillation, but you're allowing the natural elements of the sun to really like pull and extract the vibration, of course, and maybe a little bit of those oils depending on the flower. If you're working with lavender or like flowers that are like newly bloomed, which is typically what you want, something that's going to be like freshly bloomed, full of vibrancy, preferably after it's been sitting out in the sun for a little while. So the time of day, again, like if you're really into like early almanac or like going into using the elements of nature when you're making these essences, you can look and see what moon phase we're in. There's all these other variables that can play a part. But again, like most importantly, it's about the medicine just being able to extract what it's giving you without too much of your input. You want just that purity. Once the essence is sat in the sun, or a lot of times like with mass produced flower essence companies, they've got to make so much plant material. So they're going from the approach of using a tea and it's boiled, and there's this whole kind of like more like a clinical way that it's done, and it's totally effective and it's valued and valid. But if you're really wanting that fresh floral based essence, smaller makers are going to have a lot more of that like kind of integrity behind what they're doing. So again, the sun method is a really valuable way of extracting. Once you've extracted, you want to let things sit for about 4 hours or all night, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. It's very important to remove all of the plant material. Very important. In fact, I do a triple straining, especially if I'm working with poisonous flowers like angel trumpet, datura, morning glory, certain flowers that are like so valuable for the mind and helping to relieve like stress and give clarity. A lot of those flowers that are more on the toxic end, foxglove, you really want to make sure that all the plant material is completely out of the base. And then once that's accomplished, you need to have a preservation. The traditional preservation would be brandy. Anything that's, you don't need to, it's not like a tincture, so you don't need like a 90 proof grain alcohol or anything like crazy. Just standard, whatever that's 65 proof is perfectly fine. It's just as long as you have some kind of preservation in there in the mother essence, because it will, over time, you will get bacteria growth, and you'll see floaters in there if it's not done properly. And so I stress that is very important. I ordered an essence once online and it came and it was just like water. And I was like, I don't know if I want to take this. If somebody's got alcohol sensitivities, having the mother essence, you really only need from there like several drops into like typically a half-ounce bottle. And from there, you can alter the preservation for the actual final tincture that you're facilitating to someone. It can be a vegetable glycerite. It can be apple cider vinegar. When you're working with the mother essence, it's so concentrated that you really just need a few drops. And then from that, as you take it as your medicine, depending on what you're trying to address, for me, like I always take a few drops a day of something. I'm always concocting my own little blends. So I think it's important to take at least like 3 drops a day, depending on what the circumstance is.
What's your experience, Jocelyn? Do you have any different techniques that you've learned that you really liked, or anything that you wanted to say about that?
Yes, absolutely. I love pairing them. They are quite synergistic with other herbal preparations. So I very much like bridging that gap and bringing it to the forefront with things I'm already offering the community. For instance, if I'm offering like vitamin C packets or things like that, adding, kind of recommending or giving community members, let's say yarrow flower essence for added protection, for different things, like if you were offering as well something like a B complex vitamin, because sometimes we are able to give out supplements, something like a larch flower essence, or even a Bee Bright Terra Anoint, which is an oil with citrus notes, but it's a flower essence. Amazing, amazing for like uplifting, to just mood elevating, to help folks. Something even combined when we give out tea blends. So sometimes if we give folks something like a peppermint tea, or something like an energizing ginger tea, you can combine that and give them flower essences of wild rose or mustard. So it brings up that sense of upliftment as well, but also like joy and motivation. There's also things like, I have some visuals here, but these aromatic blends where you do some inhalers, some essential oil inhalers, and these are really easy to put together to give out to the community. And you can also pair this with different flower essences, for instance, with like a rose, you can also give this, you can add flower, like the rose flower essence to it, to nurture self-love and promote emotional healing. And the same with something like a relaxing lavender or chamomile could be combined with a rescue remedy to help promote that relaxation, reduce that anxiety, and provide emotional support. So there's definitely, even in things when folks are making their own salves or they're sharing out different creams. I know that I've given out CBD creams, for instance, and that those are meant to be applied topically to one, help with healing, of course, but also like for the CBD creams is to address inflammation or discomfort. And combining that with flower essences such as crabapple or walnut, that's only going to help with emotional healing as well, and can make you feel more grounded and give you some more of that resilience during really difficult times. Kind of bringing those things together and seeing how or what kind of flower essences would complement the preparations you're currently offering. And sometimes they can be added directly into the preparation, and sometimes it can just be an additional thing that you're able to provide to your community. But it definitely works really beautifully hand in hand. And having your well-being, your emotional and mental well-being, definitely has effects on your healing journey. You might have these physical symptoms that can either develop as a result of feelings of fear and anxiety, or you could also already be having really very serious feelings about a physical symptom that you're currently having. And helping to balance these out can definitely speed up that healing and rectify things that might be happening under the surface. And it's just a much more holistic approach. So we're not just trying to help you with a physical ailment, try to help you heal from some type of, so sorry. So we're not just trying to help you heal from a physical ailment, but we are trying to actively address those feelings that you have either around it or resulting from it, and promoting your spiritual wellness in the process.
I hear you on that. Yeah, in my herbal practice, I usually use a combination. Like often I'll talk to somebody for an hour and a half to like really understand like all the different things that are going on physically, as well as and then paying close attention to emotional or spiritual or mental stumbling blocks or goals or frustrations. And yeah, sometimes it comes out of the physical illness, and sometimes it contributes to it, and sometimes it's adjacent. There can be so many things. So then I will often, the flower essences to me are a really fun part, because I feel like I can really fine tune that emotional quality. I remember as you were telling all those different ways you could take them, I typically recommend that people put a few drops into a large container of water and then sip it throughout the day. But one of the first ways I was introduced to the flower essences was a friend of mine. She would bring the brownies to the parties, and we were like oohing and ahhing, and she's like, no, this is just a box of brownie mix, and I just add wild rose flower essence to it. And so we were just, I was like, this woman's a genius, because Why be like working so hard to make like this perfect meal when you can just like bring the emotions and put it in the emotions? So I thought she was super smart and love her way of being in the world. But so I just want to give a few examples of different ways that I have seen flower essences support people in my practice. What I would say the number one help for me that got me so convinced of the power of them was fillery. And that is good for repetitive thinking, which can be part of a head injury. It's really just like you're having like a real serious physical problem in your brain, and somehow this flower is able to like make it so that you don't have that symptom. And I was just like, these flowers can do anything. Another one would be, I was dealing with like around like a middle school age girl who was having like extreme rage, anger, vindictive, jealous, those types of feeling. And it had been just like escalating. And I used holly, and then it just cleared up. And then the response, like she acknowledged what was that her behavior was out of line and just started being able to like react with the situation more appropriately, which like it was such a night and day difference. And then apocynem or werewolf root, I had experience using that as like a low dose tincture, and it's hard to come by. So I found a flower essence and wanted to use it for a client who, like in both cases that I've used it, it's been for Matthew Wood teaches it, and like my plant meditation on it was like kind of like change or die. Like you're in a really bad situation. I guess I've used it a few more times with usually either a partner or a like domineering boss. And you just really need the person needs to change their lifestyle dramatically, but often we might not feel like we have the power to do that, or the gumption or whatever it's going to take. And I found that the werewolf root worked just as well for flower essence as like a low dose herb. And in each case, it broke the relationships up like very quickly. And that was like a safety blessing for the different situations involved. And then like on a much more physical note, my father was having like serious chest issues. He has COPD, lifelong asthma, bronchitis, and he is on 24 medications, and he was put on hospice. So pretty much like he was nervous about herbs before all this, but because of the many medications, it becomes like almost impossible to give an herb without somebody worrying about an interaction. So I tried Easter lily flower essence because it helps with stuck mucus, which is definitely part of his problem. And also my birth name is Lily. So I thought maybe I get some bit of softening with his worries about everything with that being the name. And it worked. It worked in that he was willing to take it. And then he also was able to get off hospice with that. And then a couple years later, he started feeling really crummy again. And he sounded again, just terrible, like huge amount of congestion. And I asked him if he had run out of the flower essence, and he had. And so we started again, and he's again doing way better. That one kind of, I feel like I'm continually having my mind blown with like how much of a difference the flower essences can make. I also have used like that in that case for a real physical problem, because my understanding is that Bach was saying we address the underlying emotion and then it can change our physical health, which I see that as true over and over again. But I think sometimes we don't need to even understand what that emotion really means or what that archetype really is. If we get the right remedy based on some other knowledge or anecdotes, case studies, then we can make somebody's life get a lot smoother or easier without having to understand it in all of its complexity necessarily. Another one that had big support for or changing of physical health would be San Pedro's cactus. I use that. In my own life, I don't use, what we call them, drugs or like hallucinogens. I don't use things, but I found this as a flower essence and it was recommended to me. And I used it I really think it's important to follow your intuition with flower essences with the dosing. Like, I think generally speaking, like the idea of taking 3 drops a day or sipping throughout the day or something like that works. But sometimes you might be like, I need this every 5 minutes because I'm like on that first airplane. Or in my case with the San Pedro's cactus, it brought up so much stuff that I would take 2 drops and then I would wait. And then 3 months later or so, I would take another 2 drops. And it eventually one day my Hashimoto's thyroiditis cleared. And I've tried it with other people and they've had similar reactions. I want to really caution you though, that even though my experience is not flower essences interacting with medications, you do have to be careful in working with your provider, because if you have a healing that happens and you're on medication for that problem, you might need to suddenly go off of that medication, and you really need to be working with a provider for that to be a smooth transition. And that's why I don't just recommend that everybody tries the San Pedro's cactus. I recommend that they they need to be working closely with other people, because when my thyroid got better, I was immediately overdosed on thyroid medication. And then it was quite stressful during that time where my doctor was figuring out that I didn't need any medication anymore. So you just have to be mindful that you could have a big healing and you be prepared. And there's been so many, I'm sure both you guys have seen so many do you have any like favorite flowers that you feel like just you were wowed by a certain experience with yourself or someone else?
Yeah, I love what you're saying about these big healings and these big breakthroughs with flower essences. And going back to the earlier discussion about having the physical and the mental and emotional all connected. And as I'm listening to you, I'm remembering all these different case studies. When I had my apothecary, people would come in, I'd have like little remedies for them. We'd do specific things for addressing like headaches and that was a big one. I'd have so many people coming in for migraines, and I'd be making them teas and I'd be making them tinctures and all these things using aromatherapy. And I'd always want to just give them a flower essence. I'm like, can we just get to the emotional part? Because I think we could have some bigger breakthroughs here. And there were a few that let me go there with them. And what I found was wood betony was just so powerful in treating migraines, helping with headaches, people that have racing thoughts or like the busy mind. As that herb is so powerful for addressing migraines, the essence really gets into the emotional space. Why are you having the migraine? For many, it's very different. Ocular stress, whether it's looking at a computer all day or whatever the case is. And like you were saying earlier, like maybe sometimes we don't have to know about the emotions so much. It's just witnessing and noticing the physiological changes happening. So good. I just grew some. It like survived the insane winter we had last year. I planted it last fall and I was like, please work. It went through some hard winter and bloomed so brilliantly this summer.
I love that. I'm gonna totally try that.
Yeah.
With this person who comes by with let me.
Yes. Yeah, especially the screen stress on the eyes. We've had a lot of people I've been helping recently coming out of like long haul COVID, having headaches, things like that. I noticed it's really helped with just that nervous tension too, that plays a role in everything in the mind, all the sensory up here. It's a good one for anything. Busy mind, busy thoughts, anxiety, overthinking. Yeah.
What about you, Jocelyn? Do you have a favorite or so?
Yeah, my favorite was, and still is, spreading phlox. So much so that I had it tattooed.
Oh,
okay,
Spreading
cool.
the phlox flower, because it made such an impact on me, and I highly recommend it because I do find a lot of, like myself, when I found it, I was feeling very lost without an herbal community. Feel very separated in an urban environment, though you have so many people around you. And I wasn't finding like other herbalists very easily. And I was really just straining, trying to find this sense of community, to find collaborators, folks that wanted to come together to unify on a mission. And so spreading flocks really helped me in that, because it's for you to find those people that are part of your soul's destiny and to really make those spiritual connections. And I get a lot of folks that reach out feeling very much the same, where they're in areas that might be very rural, so very opposite of where I am at, but they also feel like they have no community and they want to make some connections. And so I always recommend spreading flocks for folks that are really just trying to find folks or identify, potentially network for something that is going to get them on the path that they want to be on. And of course, I do also recommend olive. It's one I take a lot. And I think as healers, we recognize that we end up putting a lot of time and effort into the work that we're doing. And sometimes we need that strength, that a little help to keep us going, especially during really busy times when there might have been an event, a catastrophic event. You're really trying to work with a lot of people in a very short amount of time, and olive will definitely help you persevere and continue. So I do highly recommend that one as well. That is one I'm very much reach for from my apothecary.
Nice. Oh, I was thinking, of course, I think, Felicia, I think you're like this a lot. I think you both are, where you also enjoy all the like livelier aspects of them, although they're great when they come to the rescue when you're like feeling you're about to die. But one of my favorite things to do is to make mocktails and like set the tone for a gathering. And my friends always, whenever they come over, they're always just, what exactly am I drinking here? Because it's not going to be alcohol, but it's going to have some flowers in it. Do you have any, Felicia, do you have any like favorites that you would use to like brighten up a gathering or make a gathering like flow?
Yes, I think sweet pea is such a great essence for that, because it's all about community. And sweet peas, they like to grow in big groups and climb and connect, and they're very social, just flowers in general. But the essence is about community and just bringing people together, and it also brings joy, and I think it really does promote happiness. That's a good one. Gosh, there's so many good ones. California poppy is a good one for a party. I think that one brings a lot of brightness, cheer. I think I just love them all.
I know. Once you get started, you're just like, who can I meet next? Like,
yeah. So good.
Cool. I love hearing both your stories, because there are new flowers and new applications for me. I can just imagine like how many we could all learn about if we always were talking about flowers. Jocelyn, did you have any more thoughts about ways that people can use this with their work with HWB?
Oh yeah. When I've done make and take sessions with the community too, I always love bringing iris and blackberry to share. And it's that creativity and helping to manifest the intentions right behind the preparations. And I've loved to do that. I've done also, sometimes folks want to take part like in like planning sessions. So I've done that in the past too, where we've created vision boards. So the kind of work we would like to do in the upcoming year. And those essences really work wonderfully for vision boards. But yeah, just those are definitely ones that I bring whenever I'm doing make and takes. I would highly recommend others to do. It's really sets the tone for the session.
I love it. Wow. I don't know how you can have a bad conversation about flowers. It's just,
I know,
not possible.
No.
Totally.
So thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I hope that you found this very informative. So if you check out right below the video, you will find links to several handouts, including book recommendations, as well as some guides and examples of how you can incorporate flower essences into your own practice. And if you have any questions, if you're interested in becoming a member or becoming a coordinator of a chapter, clinic, or project operating under HWB, feel free to reach out to our office at office@hwbglobal.org, or you can just go on our website to learn a little bit more about us at www.hwbglobal.org.